Call the meeting to order and say good morning to everyone. This is the April 1st, 2021 meeting of the Lower Downtown Design Review Commission. The meeting is called to order. Before we begin our discussion, I'll review the options for public comment. If you're joining by computer, tablet, or smartphone, you should select the hand raise option. If you're calling in by phone, you need to email landmark@denvergov.org. And please use your name and phone number that you are using to call in and the project that you would like to speak about. And then you can also visit room 4I5 in the Webb Municipal Building to provide testimony in person if you would like. So let's move on and have commissioner introductions. I'm going to ask each commissioner to provide their name and the position that they serve on the commission. And we'll go in alphabetical order, but I'll call the names just to make sure we get everyone, or not the folks who are missing. But I'll start. My name is Jane Chrysler, and I am the preservation architect on the commission. I think next we have Mike.
I am Mike Coughlin. I am the developer position on the commission.
And then Andy.
Andy Duck-Imke, preservation architect.
Fred.
Fred Glick, and I think I'm now the property owner. Yes.
That's right. And Jim.
Jim Graebner, resident, and therefore also a property owner and also a business downtown.
And Heather.
Heather Vasquez Johnson. I'm a practicing architect.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Next, let's move on to the meeting record approval. We have the meeting record from 4th, 2021. So I'll ask if any commissioners have any comments or clarification on that meeting record. And not hearing any, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the record?
Move approval.
Second.
Great, so we had a move approval by Jim and the second was Fred?
Fred.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, I have a lot of screens. So okay, so let's do a roll call vote. And we'll begin with Mike.
I think I'll abstain since I was out of the meeting during the only item that was actually voted on. If that's appropriate, I think it is.
I think it is, and I believe we still have a quorum.
Okie doke.
We need 6.
Need 5.
We need 5. Yeah, then we have 5, right?
An abstention shouldn't alter quorum, though, should it?
Quorum,
it's just
okay.
a vote.
Okay, sorry.
I think.
All right, thanks, Mike. How about Andy?
I need to abstain since I wasn't there.
Well,
Oh,
so
gotcha.
here's the deal. If you have to have 5 to vote on 5 positive votes to approve and something on the agenda. So if we have 2 abstentions, then it won't get approved and we can postpone it until the next meeting. But we need to finish the vote, I think.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and finish. Thanks for the clarification, Jen. So Fred.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
And Jane Chrysler, aye. So it sounds like we have 4 ayes and 2 abstentions. So that will require that we continue this to the next meeting or include it on next meeting agenda.
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
And Nate, chime in if I'm wrong. Okay, he's quiet. That means hopefully I'm right. All right.
Means we're going to say that we're not wrong.
Correct. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right. So we do not have any consent agenda items today. So we'll move on to the design review agenda. I'll start just with a reminder of the process. Staff will make a presentation followed by questions by the commissioners. The applicant will have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation, and that will be followed by questions by the commissioners. Any member of the public is welcome to comment for up to 2 minutes each. If you're joining by computer, tablet, or smartphone, use your hand raise. You can also email, if you're on the phone, you can email landmark@denvergov.org, or if you're present in the room, which it doesn't appear that we have anybody in person yet, you can go that way. Staff can offer clarifications, and then following that presentation and public comment, the commission will go into deliberations and vote. So our one and only design review item today is 2021 COA 104 1800 Wazee Street, Dairy Block Building.
So our first application on the agenda today is for approval of 3 parklet structures in the right-of-way in front of the Dairy Block Building, not the Dairy Block, as my staff report says. Sorry about that autocorrect all throughout that. But the parklet structures are proposed to be modular units that can be lifted by a forklift. They will have composite decking and HDPE formed seats that are fixed to the structure, and then a cedar pergola-like plank roof. And then they will have steel supports and a metal railing that is 3 feet 6 inches in height. So they will be located along Blake Street, as you can see here. Here are the 3 proposed structures. The Dairy Block Building is a mix of contributing and non-contributing structures. That construction was completed in 2015, and I think 2 of the parklet structures will be located in front of historic buildings, with one located in front of the Windsor Dairy Building, and then one right near the alley access onto Blake Street. So that's what this site plan is showing. And then I think the other one is located just in front of possibly the building that houses Warby Parker and those items. So again, here are the parklet structures. They will have a footprint of 30 feet by 5 feet. They will be located in the right-of-way. There will be vehicle stops and those flex poles that are used in the right-of-way to protect the parklet structures from vehicles that travel along Blake Street. They will all have a consistent look. So this is the proposed modular units. The 2 units on the end will have the fixed seating, and then there will be open space in the middle modular unit. Here is the roof and decking plan of the proposed structures. And here we also have the railing design and the seating design. We use the open space design guidelines for Lower Downtown to evaluate these structures, which encourage that open space be used throughout Lower Downtown. It does require approval by the LDDRC, and it should provide an opportunity to for food and eating, and should activate the open space within Lower Downtown. We do feel that the proposed parklet structures are meeting that requirement. They are activating open space within Lower Downtown. They will be used for opportunities for gathering and seating outside of the public sidewalk, but within the right-of-way. And they will have a low railing that is only 3 feet 8 inches in height, and there are open air structures that complement the Dairy Block buildings and activate the space. They are minimal in scale, so they're not taller than the historic buildings or the new constructions within the Dairy Block building. And they are removed from the building by the separation of the sidewalk, so we don't feel like they significantly block views of the buildings. We also use the design guidelines for Denver landmark structures and districts to evaluate this proposal, as the LODO design guidelines are supplemental to the general design guidelines. And the lower downtown design guidelines recommend when locating a plaza or court, it should be directly accessible from the sidewalk, which these structures are, and maintain views into the historic buildings. The general guidelines also recommend using pedestrian scale elements and high quality materials. The Parklet Structures will use pedestrian scaled furniture that is affixed to the structure. These will be movable, again, operable by picking them up with a forklift. So they aren't permanent structures, but they are of high quality design. So we are recommending approval of the project proposal. And I thought I had a slide with an image of the Dairy Block building, but it doesn't seem like it made it into this PowerPoint presentation. So I apologize for that.
All right, thanks, Brittany. Any questions of Brittany from commissioners?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, quick ones.
Thanks, Jim.
One is the seating such that it prevents or discourages sleeping on it? And two, who's responsible for cleaning and removing trash and all of that?
Those are great questions for the applicant.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brittany? Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I'll invite the applicant to unmute yourself or selves. And just a reminder, you've got up to 10 minutes. You can take as long or as short as you want in that time to make a presentation. And we ask, since you do have that question from Jim, if you maybe can cover that in your presentation, but also we will have an opportunity for questions once you've completed your presentation. So welcome, applicant.
Sure. Well, thank you guys for hosting us. I appreciate the time for everyone's consideration for this project. My name is Angel Yanis. I work for 505 Design. We have been through the permitting for these parklets and the design for these parklets for some time now. So it's our pleasure to present them to you in public. My colleague Lynn Williams is on as well. And we have a couple other colleagues from other groups, Don and Lupe, I'm sure will chime in on these as well. So yes, as Brittany mentioned, these parklets are intended to activate Blake Street at Dairy Block. As many of you know, that the other end of Dairy Block is pretty highly trafficked, has a fair amount of pedestrian activity. And the intent of these parklets is to help activate this space off of Blake Street as well. These parklets would be managed and maintained by Dairy Block. So, to your point and question about discouraging people sleeping on them or staying in them, Dairy Block would be managing to keep an eye on the activities that occur within these parklets or undesired activities. The intent here, as described, we have wheel stops, flex posts, a handful of other items that help discourage vehicular traffic from impacting these. A lot of these were recommendations from the Department of Transportation. We've worked through a fair amount of other reviewers to help maintain our distance away from the trees on the sidewalk as well, to help maintain a respectable clearance so that way we do not impact the existing conditions on the street. At the same time, our intent is to provide a high quality work of design, steel wood construction that complements the Dairy Block and does not take away from the views to the existing facades of the buildings. Lynn, I don't know if you wanted to add further.
Sure. This is Lynn Williams. I'm a principal with 505 Design, and thank you for speaking with us today, and thank you for the intro, Brittany. These parklets are very important to the project. We see we designed these post-COVID, and certainly coming into COVID, we see an additional need for adding, parklet elements, places for people to just be outside, convert that curbside into vibrant community spaces. As Angel said, they are meant to be comfortable seating areas. So while Jim, I appreciate Jim's comment because we have been very, aware and thinking about that. You can see these are 2-seaters within their benches, and primarily those are just store cushions that would be locked away in the evening. But the Dairy Block Partnership was interested in creating a comfortable parklet experience for people sitting on these, and this is a public area for public guests to come in. Originally designed, these parklets had unique railing designs, but per Landmark staff, we've kind of we're now showing a more unified railing design. We also had lighting proposed that was attached to these, and that was removed per Landmark staff recommendations. So they are modular. They are meant to, if needed, break down and be moved. And I believe, Brittany, they're 34 by 6 feet as opposed to the 5 feet small detail. Flooring is a composite decking of high quality. Again, these are meant to be, to reinforce the Dairy Block brand. There'll be a black steel and of high quality construction, and upfitted with comfortable chairs and tables and whatever seating to further complement that experience.
Great. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Are there any questions from commissioners of the applicant? And I see Fred's hand first. So let's go start with Fred.
Thank you. Hi, a couple of quick questions just to make sure I understand. On sheet 100, you list, or you have notes that indicate parklet type 1, parklet type 2, and parklet type 3. I wasn't clear from the drawings what the difference was between the 3 types.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Angel.
just to note as a reference to our original intent, we had 3 different railing designs for each one of these parklets. Per the recommendations that we'd received from the intake for Landmark Commission review, we unified those railing systems. So each one is just noted as each parklet that we are intending to place in the space at this time. And they're not necessarily unique at this point anymore.
Okay, great, thank you. 2 other quick things. One, just a comment. Looks to me from the drawings like the length is 5 foot 6 3/4, so neither 5 feet nor 6 feet.
My drawing said 6.
That's probably a reference of the separation distance between the curb and the front edge of the parklet. The parklet itself is 5 feet wide, so there's just the gap jump to space the curb.
Huh, okay. It might just be some inconsistencies in the drawings. I was just looking at sheet 101. Oh, I guess, yeah, maybe the floor plan on D shows a total length of 5'6'3" and 5 foot 6 3/4. So I don't know if there's just inconsistency somewhere, but anyway. The only other question I had is, so the wheel stops were a recommendation of Dottie specifically? Okay.
Yes.
I've not found them to be all that successful sometimes in keeping things from hitting other things, but anyway.
Sure.
I think it's just an additional flag for people to be aware that something is in that location. We agree with you and have studied other things, but this is where we are as of today.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jim, you want to go next?
Yeah, further question, and this is one that I hope someone knows the answer to, because I sure don't. Are these required to be accessible? And if so, it looks like we have I don't want to get into dimensions again because we've got all over the map, but about a 5-inch gap between the curb and the entry floor. And that's certainly not ADA compliant.
Sure, so we have a bridge. It's a small plate that connects the floor of the parklets to the face of the sidewalk. So again, we would not overreach that half-inch rise for thresholds, and there is enough space in that middle section of the parklet for turning radius. So we have considered ADA requirements in this as well.
Thank you.
And during the encroachment permit process, ADA has reviewed and approved.
Terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Mike? I think you're on mute, Mike.
Thanks. You know, I just want to go back to Jim's earlier question. You know, we do have this guideline that says that we're supposed to minimize visual and functional impacts on the streetscape. And it goes back a little bit to the question about how attractive this might be for sleeping or overnight staying. And I just would like the applicant maybe to discuss that a little bit more, because I do think this is an attractive location for sleeping, and that could impact, you know, the pedestrian experience to some degree. So could you just weigh in on that a little bit more?
You want me to
I
go
don't-
ahead?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, Don,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Don Cloutier. I'm the general manager. I have 6-week-old twins and my parents in town, so that's dressed down today. But thanks so much for hearing us out on these parklets. Really excited about the project, and we agree with you. Our intent was to design something extraordinarily attractive, which means you need to combat all the not so great that comes along with it. Have 24/7. Well, there's a couple of things. So I'll start with functionally within the parklets. One thing I asked the design team to incorporate was when we remove these soft cushions that can be stolen or damaged permanently or stained, and lock them away, what we would leave behind would be actually raised areas between the seats. So if you were to actually lay down, you're actually laying down on not a flat surface. This is not, we don't want it to be comfortable. They're decommissioned for the night. We don't want them to be overly inviting. The other thing we have is 24/7 security. Our overnight presence. I know you guys are very aware of what's going on out there, and I'm really proud of our group that we haven't showed up in the news specifically with something unfortunate happening. You know, there's certain crime stats that are up that I know that we all review consistently, and we've been able to not see the uptick in trends on our property proper. We spend a significant amount of money to have that 24/7 security, and no less than 3 overnight officers each night. And when we address somebody that's plugged in a cell phone in the heart of the alley, which is also an attractive space with covering, and oftentimes the heaters may be running, so that attracts everyone. We're armed with the verbal judo and the best training that you can offer to interact with these people, engage with these people, so we don't have a negative experience or any sort of a backlash. It's really a constructive dialogue about why it's not appropriate to be sleeping there. And so we deal with this every day, all day. We also have, who works closely in tandem security, our housekeeping crews, everything from graffiti. We have a process where within 30 minutes, there's a picture taken, it's cataloged, it's cleaned, and it's sent to the police department to see if that graffiti is an indication of any increase in crime in the area that you might find. So we've been at it 3 years now. Personally, been at it 10 years now in a few, very security challenged areas. Nice stuff that's outside, and so taking care of it is what I'm here for. And we have the protocols in place to ensure that it's not an attractive place for them. And if we're falling short, if we really have a problem, I'm sure there are mechanisms to formally button these up with lockable canvas. Right now, what you see is what you get with a hard skate that's not comfortable to lay on, and all the soft goods locked away.
Thank you for that. Any other questions for the applicant?
I guess one more quick one, and I assume I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Has Doty had any objection to removing the 6 parking spaces?
So as we've been working with them, they've addressed the concern and that they do not have any concerns with the removal of parking. The only thing we'd have to do is apply for the payment through the city so that spots aren't just taken up and not providing income for the city as they are parking. So with that said, these would be worked and paid for the year, each year with the city parking.
Paid
Thank
for
you.
by Dairy Block Partnership, correct?
In the immediate businesses within the dairy block on the ground floor, certainly there are partners in this and in finding the best way to utilize them. They're thrilled to have somebody have an opportunity to stop and spend time in Lodo in front of the store. So we don't have any pushback from actually the businesses that are directly in front of these what would be decommissioned meter spaces.
Any other applicant questions? All right, then I'll ask if there is anyone from the public who would like to comment on this
There's
application.
no one else attending the meeting virtually. And I don't believe there's anyone at the web building, right, Crystal? That's a no.
And no emails. All right. Well, thank you to the applicant. We are now going to enter into our commissioner deliberation, but Brittany, you have a question?
I just have some follow-up. So it's my understanding that the lights are not allowed to extend across the sidewalk, and that was not a landmark requirement. That is a fire department requirement. So I just wanted to provide clarity on why that was removed. There were 3 separate designs for each of the railings. We did recommend unifying those railing designs. And then also, so I do need clarity on the dimensions of what these are, because this dimension here, if this will allow me to annotate, is this is 5 and 2 and 1/4 inch. And then as Fred mentioned on the floor or the roof plan, so that this dimension here is that 5 and 2.5 inch, but that second dimension there is 5 feet and 6 3/4. I can't read it from the scale. So I just need some clarity on that width dimension or depth dimension.
Sure. So the initial dimension that you noted is the structural steel centered on center to each post. And the secondary dimension should be from face of Parklet to the back face of Parklet.
Okay, so it's not 6 feet.
And not counting, and then the additional is the ADA ramp, correct?
Correct, that gap we have to split.
Yeah. So the offset from the curb, Angel, is what?
It's roughly 6 inches.
Yeah, 6 feet. Oh, yes. So I think that's where I was getting the 6 feet. There was a dimension that included that ramp.
Right. As we've noted that these are movable parklets, so that dimension may change slightly, but that's the rough.
So whatever the actual dimension is what I need on my final stamped and approved plans. So that can be something that the commission discusses in their deliberation.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's noted, well, we can deliberate about it, but I think it's noted correctly that outside edge to outside edge is 5'6 3/4. And applicant, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that'd be the correct that measurement.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks, Brittany. think otherwise, yeah, we'll go ahead and move into commissioner deliberation.
Thank you all for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time. If we have any additional questions for the applicant, we will let you know.
Yep, and I'm going to move them over to attendee as per our policy. So, yep.
Yeah, otherwise I invite commissioners to provide their input. Jim, is your hand up?
Yes, just a clarification. Is it possible, I guess this is for Brittany, that you could do a 5 feet, or 5'6" plus or minus number? Because that curve is going to vary a little bit as it segues down the street. And it just seems to me that an exact dimension down to a quarter of an inch is probably impossible.
I think, if I might, I think the 5'6"3/4 is the structure itself. The dimension, but I don't know that there's a dimension on there that gives a from the curb. I haven't been able to find that, and I think that, as the applicant points out, that's likely to shift a little bit as they plant them with the forklift, et cetera, and get the plate in place.
Yeah, Fred, I would agree with that interpretation of the drawings.
Yeah, I was just asking for clarity because during the applicant's presentation, she mentioned 6 feet and my drawings don't say that anywhere. So that's why I was asking for that clarity.
Any other comments, Fred? Did you?
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm very supportive of this. I think it's a great use of right-of-way and curb lane. I think it's certainly in line with some of what's being discussed elsewhere in terms of 5280 trail, et cetera. I think it makes perfect sense. And I think I'm just very aware that Dairy Block is pretty actively managed. And so I don't think I have any great concerns about nuisance, et cetera, related to these structures. So I'm very supportive.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll echo that. I appreciate the design and the adherence to what I believe is adherence to our guidelines for the high quality materials and the simplicity, because I think there's 1,000 different ways these could have gone. So appreciate the work that the applicant and staff did to, I think, get them where they are. Any other comments or concerns from commissioners? Okay. If not, then would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I move to approve application number 2021 COA 104 for the 3 Parklet structures at 1800 Wazee Street, the Dairy Block building per Lower Downtown Historic District Design Guidelines 12.1, 12.1.1, and 12.1.2, and design guidelines for the Denver Landmark Structure and Districts Design Guidelines 4.28 and 5.13, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thanks, Fred. I'll second.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you, Heather, for the second. So let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, and we'll start with Mike.
Okay.
And Andy?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
And Jane is an aye also. So the motion passes unanimously. Thank you again to the applicant for the information. And that is our only design review agenda item. So unless there are any other items anyone would like to discuss? We have no business items and no discussion items listed, but Mike.
Hey, Jane.
Yeah.
I attended this focus group. I think we maybe mentioned it last week. And it was a focus group that was kind of about how the virtual in-person Zoom meetings went. And I'll just give a 30-second update on that. I was kind of trying to speak on behalf of all of our commissioners. The attendees, I think there were 6 different focus groups. The particular group that I participated in on our behalf were board and commission members. And there was someone from Landmark, someone from planning, a number of people from advisory boards, like on parks and various cultural groups. And, you know, our experience was pretty typical for everyone's experience. It was kind of a mixed bag. The technical stuff was tricky. Everybody agreed with that. The real crux of it, I think, is what is the going forward plan or feedback. And I think everybody was pretty much on the same page that there were benefits to the public to be able to attend virtually or to be able to watch virtually or participate that way. I think that commissioners on all the quasi judicial groups like zoning, landmarks, and our group felt that the commissioners were better in person because of the collaboration and the conversation was facilitated, you know, better when people were next to each other. Also, the ability to see models, graphics, material samples more clearly. So I think the overall feedback of this focus group was that there's a role for virtual participation, especially from applicants and the public, and that the benefits of any policy changes going forward should really accrue to the public, not to the commissioners. The commissioners can do the work and make it a little bit less convenient. But if we don't need the public to have to come downtown, find parking, sit there for 3 hours for a particular item to come up on the docket, all that, if we can allow more participation virtually as an ongoing process, that probably has a lot of benefits. So I think everybody pretty much shared that. Some of the groups are more far flung, like the cultural groups, and they said it was a huge benefit to be able to do it through Zoom, basically. And they did not feel like they necessarily needed to meet in person, maybe ever, because of just the hardship of getting out of work, getting transportation, dealing with childcare potentially, et cetera, et cetera. So there were a lot of people who just appreciated that they could participate from wherever they happen to be.
Thank you, Mike, for attending that meeting. That was great.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for representing us. Great. Well, any questions for Mike? All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for your time. Otherwise, we can adjourn.
Well, I realized one thing real quickly. I realized this for LPC this morning, but I checked your bylaws and I believe your elections for the chair and vice chair happen the first meeting in regularly scheduled meeting in May. So just something to think about. We'll put that on the agenda and you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Sounds good. Okay, then I think we'll go ahead and adjourn today's meeting.
Hi.
We'll
See you all.
next time.